What are you doing? You're not answering the question I'm asking. I felt so hopeless and so lost and just unsure of how I was going to make anything in my life.
The things that you think are rad are the things that will blow up.
Hard work is just always going to win. Nice.
There it is.
You guys are here 5 minutes, start breaking our...
All right, sitting here with the legendary Tom Bilyeu. Thank you for inviting me into your home.
Dude,
man.
thanks for coming, man.
I love it. I love it.
I can't believe that we're meeting in person for the first time today. It's bananas.
When did I have you on?
It was a long time ago.
It was way back.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw your stuff, because all my stuff gets requested. It's all the people in my audience saying, hey, can you do this person, this person?
Right.
The first time somebody said Tom Bilyeu, like, okay, I've never heard of him, I'll check it out. You had just finished Inside Quest and just started doing Impact Theory. And we did a top 10 on you, like, oh man, I really love this guy.
Wow.
And the first video actually tanked. Like the first Tom Bilyeu video tanked hard. And I remember thinking, man, I really hope this guy doesn't stop. Because there's not a lot of great content out there helping entrepreneurs. And I really loved your message.
Wow, thank you.
And it's so easy to get discouraged when you don't see the initial numbers, especially when you've had massive success in a different field and it's like taking so long to get going. And so I'm super pumped that you kept going, obviously built this huge brand. Now if we do another Tom Bilyeu video, it blows up. So
that's awesome, man.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I wanna use this time wisely. I wanna talk health and then I wanna get to business.
Nice, okay.
Health, I'm curious if you have solved the seasonal allergy issue yet.
Not for me, no. So I don't experience what I'll call super seasonal. I just have allergies all the time. And so I'm one of those people, if I take my medication, I'm fine. But then I think, well, I'm fine. I should be able to stop taking my medication. And so I'll try it every now and then, and it just comes rushing right back. It's pretty crazy.
This disappoints me so much.
Yeah.
Because you talked about it once on some old video about how you took a seasonal allergy pill every day.
Yeah.
And it stuck because I do too. I'm allergic to grass and dust and trees.
Oof.
You go do the pin test. I'm like, if anybody's gonna figure it out, it's Tom.
Here's the problem, this is so manageable. So like I really go after things like inflammation.
Okay.
That was untenable in my life. And so that's something that I definitely put energy into. And when I first did ketogenics, which by the way, when I first did it, I despised it. So people that are like, oh, keto's terrible, like I'd never want, I get it. I get how people end up there. You really have to figure out how to do it well. And it was miserable, but my inflammation went away. Like I was taking a drug and all I had done was change my food. That was crazy. But that was, like I had burn marks on my wrists that I thought were permanent at the time because I was icing every day. And I would ice multiple times a day for like 20, 30 minutes at a shot just to like be able to get through my day. It was really crazy. And then yeah, keto completely changed that. The stuff that my wife's gone through with the microbiome, untenable. So it's like problems will rear their head and become something that has to be dealt with. My allergies hasn't quite fallen into that category.
So disappointing. You're like my health spirit animal.
Wow,
right?
I like that.
And Tom's gonna figure it out. When I found out that you had this same thing as me, like Tom's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
He's gonna do all the work.
I've let us both down.
You need to bring on the allergy expert.
It's actually interesting. That would be a fun episode to do.
Yeah. I would watch that. I will help you promote that video.
Nice. All right.
Get it up.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'm stick to my pills, and I'm on a pill almost every day, all year long.
Yeah. I'm pill and nose spray. The nose spray though, I only have to do probably 4 months out of the year.
Okay.
Which is weird because it's winter, so I don't know what that's about. But as I get into the later months where most people are having a hard time, then I can stop doing the spray. But
I'm looking at doing that therapy where they like inject you with a needle every week for 2 years or something.
I know somebody that did something like that. I don't know if there was an end date for him, but he got injections. I don't know if it was weekly, but he said it was a game changer for him.
Yeah. I was hoping I would come here and get a magical answer before doing that, but
yeah, I can give you some. My dog has really bad allergies, and so that was so bad for him that we really had to figure it out. And so he gets this like squirt thing in his mouth every day, and it's like a low level of like some like 22 different compounds that he's allergic to, and so just by getting a little bit of exposure every day, it's helped.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe there's something like
that. Get the dog
that.
spray. Wow. Okay. Disappointing. Cool. I love it. Okay. My favorite question that you ask on Health Theory is your last one.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get so pissed off because the answer is totally irrelevant to the rest of the talk. You have the keto guy on who's then at the end says relationships is the number one thing that, right? What's your last question? What's the most important thing?
What's the impact you want to have on the world? Well, it depends.
The health one.
On Health Theory, it's if you could change one thing that would have the biggest impact on people, on their health, what would it be?
I like the impact theory one because it's a nice ending, but that one you almost always get some wild answer, or at least half the time. It has nothing to do with the show. And then there's not enough time you're such a great thread puller. Like of interview, because you spend so much time researching people, it is obvious. And people always come on, it's like, how did you know that about me? Well, because Tom's doing the work to dive into your entire life story. He knows it. And then you follow your curiosity, and you're such a good thread puller that then I want to know why the keto guy says relationships is the most important thing to fix your health. And it's only, like a minute and a half answer.
Yeah.
Have you thought about switching that?
I haven't, partly because it is interesting sort of in isolation, because if I brought it in too early, then I think a lot of the interviews would take on a more philosophical tone, because people are trying to either give you something that's in their wheelhouse. So the sleep guy will tell you that it's sleep. The hydration person's going to tell you that it's water. But you do every now and then get these really random answers that I actually wouldn't want to get earlier, because then to pull that thread, to follow up on it, to not make it completely a non sequitur, which works at the end, but wouldn't work earlier in the episode. There's a lot of pressure on people with that question. And so I find that it can go in these very interesting directions, which is fun as a point on the end of it.
Yeah.
But wouldn't take the interview where I want to go. So I often don't know what they're going to say. And if you want to know a little bit about my interview style, I once heard that a DA is never going to ask you a question to which he does not already know the answer. And I thought, that's an interesting tactic. So in my interviews, I'll say 80% of the questions I'm asking because I know where you're going to go. And I think that it's going to add a lot of value to people. So I'm steering them towards that. I'm pulling threads because, one, I am following my curiosity, but two, oftentimes I know they've got some deep wisdom down that thread and I just need to get them there. And if I were asking that question, which I usually don't know the answer because I don't know if they're going to be philosophical, I don't know if they're going to be obvious, it's better as a punctuation.
I think that's how you actually create unique content. A lot of the people who will come on, they've been on a lot of other shows and they've got their set stories ready to go. And I think you doing your intro and then asking questions you don't know the answer to helps. But to have unique, amazing content, it's asking questions that they haven't been asked on everybody else's show.
Maybe, but I think that the reality is on a long enough timeline, that'll actually be a losing strategy. For me, maybe other people could pull it off, and maybe that's some of the magic of Joe Rogan, is that he's going places that it is, I think it was Will, who was just off camera a minute ago, said that Joe Rogan has an element of chaos to his interviews, certainly when you take them as a gestalt. So it's like, even you as the listener, no idea where this one's going to go. Is it going to be combative? Is it going to be, where they're going down really random rabbit holes? Are they going to be talking about hunting? Like, you never know what you're going to get. And that, one, is not the current skill set that I have. So I could develop a skill set maybe that would let me do an interview style like that. But for me, it's about trying to pre-masticate their entire world. So I know how they think. I know how they're going to answer most questions. And from that, I can ask myself simple questions. What will be most valuable to my audience? So the one thing that I try to hold myself accountable to is not just, am I going to be entertained? Not just, am I going to learn something? But is the audience going to be able to get something they can actually take away? So I'm so sincere at the very beginning of my interview when I say that the whole idea behind this company is to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you actually execute on your dreams. So the show that I'm trying to do now is one where you can, with every show, get a brick, and with that brick, you can build something, whether that's a more powerful mindset, whether that's a better business, whether that's to be a better parent or have a better relationship, depending on the show. That's where I'm going. And so to leave it to chance, to be like, I don't know where you're going to go. And I've been interviewed like this, and people will take me to places I don't have profound wisdom. So now it's like, yes, you may have gotten something interesting because maybe you tap into something that nobody else has tapped into. But it's also possible you take me somewhere where I'm really ineffective, which I think is it's a higher risk interview, certainly. So my goal with the intro is I want to rob you of your normal story. I'm trying to get you out of what I call your loop, because it drives me nuts when no matter what I ask people, and I won't say who, but I've had people on the show where I'm like, what are you doing? You're not answering the question I'm asking. So, and I already gave the audience your loop. So all the things that you're really proud of, all that, I've already said it. It's in the intro. People get it. And so that to me was, yes, I want to honor them, but I also want to take away the typical way that they talk about their story. So I want to go a level deeper, but I want to go a level deeper in areas that I know you have deep wisdom.
My favorite moments from your interviews are when people give you an answer and then you're like, wow, that was not what I expected.
Yeah, that's fun. Like when they have something that's real and it's like, wow, that's really usable in my life. Yeah, those are my favorite moments as well.
I think that's the genius of Tom Bilyeu.
Wow, thank you.
I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think of that as a whole thing. I think of that as, because when you really know a topic, like you actually know it, people can take you into weird places and you'll do well because you understand the fundamentals, right? So I always love when somebody says something that I'm surprised by, and those moments happen because I've hopefully taken them somewhere that I know that they're good, that they have interesting thing to say, and oftentimes it's people will mention, like I just watch so much footage on them that they'll do a throwaway comment in another interview that nobody follows up in. Mm-hmm. And based on what I know about them, I have a high probability that they have something really interesting to say there, so I'll follow up with that. But it really is just like, do I know this person well enough to go into crazy places with them and have the confidence to be like, I'm gonna be able to piece this back together for people because I know their worldview. And I secretly want whatever success I have from the method that I use to be proof that hard work is just always going to win. The one thing I do sometimes think is unearned is my curiosity. And that bothers me. I don't like anything in my personality to be unearned, but I didn't do anything to cultivate my curiosity. I've always had curiosity. And so in the interview, I get the visceral like, whoa, what was that? And then I actually want to know. And so I'm going to chase them down. And then not being afraid to look stupid. So I'll just keep asking until I actually understand.
From someone who consumes a ton of content, I probably watch more of everybody's videos than anybody for what I do. I would love for you to dedicate half the show to it. And if you go nowhere, you still get the first half of the show.
Interesting.
Because the guests that you have on, I've seen in other spots. And so I would love Impact Theory to be the show that, man, if Tom has them on, it's going to be the best interview that person's ever done. It's
really interesting. And so to get that, you're saying to ask more what I'll call high-risk questions, where I have no idea where this is going to go.
Well, and following your curiosity. I think that's the genius.
I do follow my curiosity. So that I will say, sort of, is it true? Is it regardless? It comes close to being regardless if something really sparks my curiosity. Now, here's something maybe you can help me with, and I really do struggle with this. I will have watched so much footage on that person before they come in that a lot of times, like if they're even getting close to their loop, it's like, I know this already, so I'm not having an emotional reaction, which then, if I'm not having the emotional reaction, I can't necessarily take them somewhere surprising. And so there are times where I'm like, I can't get this person out of their loop, and that gets really frustrating. And in those moments, I am trying to like sort of push and poke, but I'm probably just not good enough yet.
Well, great. It's an aspiration to get better at.
Yeah, for sure.
I think those are the moments. I mean, you get a guy like Goggins on, and you guys both kind of blew up together, right?
Yeah, that dude.
He blew you up, and you blew him up, and it was this magical moment for both of you. But Goggins brings fire everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he does.
Right? And so when the interaction comes with Tom, what's Tom going to bring out that's different? Because people are in their loop, are in their stories.
Yeah.
And I'm just maybe hearing it so often when we're looking at these people that we're profiling. I would love to say, man, this is why you subscribe to Impact Theory, because you're going to get something different.
It's really interesting. You're putting your finger on something. So behind the scenes, we're trying to develop a new show. And it's to introduce the chaos factor. I wouldn't have said it quite like you're saying it, but I want to get to the point where it can be sort of a collision of ideas, because that's where I've always thought is the most interesting interview. So if you watch my early Inside Quest interviews, I talked a lot more than I do now. And that I stopped doing that because I could see a way to get bigger guests on the show if I created a way for them to really shine and to just focus entirely on getting their wisdom and packaging it up and bringing it to my audience. And that's worked really, really well. And so I wouldn't ever want to stop doing that, but I do want a show that has that element of chaos. Like, did you see the episode that we did with Dame Dash?
I'm a little behind because I'm on my tour.
Dude, fair enough.
But
my God, you've got so much.
I'm pumped for it.
It's the weirdest interview I've ever done.
Okay.
So
and it did well.
Yeah, did
but
very
Dame
well.
does well on my channel too. It's like
he's
a
very interesting and a high level of chaos. Yeah. A high level of chaos. You never know what you're going to get. This is California. I don't want to speak out of school, but when we weren't filming, he was definitely partaking of certain legal substances in the state of California. And it was just on my mind, like what it did for him. So I've smoked weed before, and it does not affect me in a positive way. I hate it, man. The only thing it does, it makes sex better. It's amazing for that, like amazing. But every single thing else sucks. So I can't watch movies. I have a hard time like paying attention to the plot. It doesn't make me feel more creative. It's not like I could write better. So for me, like there is exactly one use for it, but the problem is the effects last for like 5 hours. So I'm always intrigued when people are like, they purport to be at their best when they're doing it. So I was like, I have to ask. So we're doing the whole normal interview. We wrap, last question, what's the impact you want to have in the world? He answers it, but he ends up saying something really weird. I don't remember what triggered it, but he said something really weird. So I couldn't just let his last answer go. So I start like pulling at the thread, as you're saying. I'm following my curiosity. I'm like, I need to know more about that. And so he really starts giving it to me. He lets his guard down and he's just talking. It's awesome. And I'm like, well, now that we're having the real interview, why do you smoke weed? Like, I gotta know, like, what is it? And so then we go down this crazy rabbit hole. It was so much fun. We started talking about quantum physics and like crazy shit. And I had so much fun, but I was like, I have no idea if people watching this are like, what the is this? And people were memeing the part about the quantum physics, but it was rad. And so I want to find a format that can handle a bit more experimentation. That would be a lot of fun, but it would also require a different kind of guest, because a lot of, if a guest is like ultra packaged, never going to be able to get there.
I think that's where your genius can break through. Legit. I look at TD Jakes. You know TD Jakes?
Yeah.
TD Jakes, when he's done some of his interviews, he's fire. Like TD Jakes, when he's on fire, is untouchable. He's a special kind of human. But he's also had some really boring interviews based off of who's asking the questions. I think you can take people there.
Interesting, man. I appreciate that. That's really
I think the
emboldening.
fun, the thing that you love the most, going down that rabbit hole, is going to create such amazing stuff. And people come and watch because you're putting them on. Most of the people you've had on, they haven't been massive names yet. Why are people watching? Is because Tom's recommending them. Because you saw something in this person. People have trust in you that if Tom's going to put them on, they have to have something it's another brick, right? That I'm going to learn from. And so the more curious you are, the more the audience is going to care too, as opposed to you like, I've heard this loop before. The audience is going to feel like that too.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's a powerful
I'm fighting
point.
for it. Like, I want to, like, come on, let's go, Tom. Right? Okay, switching to business. I got a special surprise here.
Oh, my man.
This is it.
There it is.
Okay,
That's
so
awesome.
listen. I'm on a 90-day tour right now.
Yes.
So we're driving across
Wow.
North America.
That's incredible.
U.S. doing it because we have all of this gear and everything to make it happen.
Yeah.
So bringing this shirt down just for this episode.
Wow. Taken as intended.
It's one of my few T-shirts that I'm bringing along just for this. But
thank you.
One of the things that you always do when you're interviewing people is you always try to wear something that is inspired by them.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. This is
amazing, man.
for you don't know. This
Thank
is
you.
Tom's comic that he did with Steve
Aoki. Yep.
Neon Future.
That's the one.
And you sent me a whole bunch of them. I haven't opened them because I want to read them, but I don't open them because they're
interesting.
They're
Yeah,
still
some
in the
people do
sleeves,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the collectors.
I want people to like dig in and read the story, but I totally get it. As a psycho collector myself, trust me, I get it.
I'll have to get another copy.
I'll give you one and like scuff it a bit, so you're like, all right, well, this one's garbage. Yeah.
But this has been scuffed by Tom. You know, that makes it even more valuable. So moving on to business.
Yeah.
Why don't we see more Tom on Tom's channel?
You know, it's an interesting question. So that goes back to this other show where I want to be talking more, quite frankly, so that I can explore my own ideas. I very much am a process thinker. So for me to even get through my own ideas, I need to be able to talk about them. And so it would be very useful in my own life to have those moments where I could talk about it. And it really comes down to time, man. My time is, I have officially hit the point where I'm willing to work more, but there aren't more hours. And that's for a type A like myself, it's a very frustrating place to be, to know that you could do more, you could give more, but you're now officially at the point where, like, for instance, if I don't give my relationship enough hours, it begins to decline. It's my highest priority, so I have to make sure that I'm allocating the time and energy to that.
So what if you do one interview a week?
Well, that's one more interview a week. That's the problem. So right now, and look, it is possible, and I want to find that 100%, but I just start thinking about, okay, something has to give. So what's important enough to give for this? And we were just having this debate yesterday, and we were talking about whether we should be doing relationship theory. And so that's a show that constantly finds itself on the chopping block because it's so different than other things that we do, but the show itself is good for my marriage. So that's why it keeps getting a fighting chance.
Show.
I love it. It's my favorite to do, first of all. And I really feel like some of the techniques that Lisa and I have figured out would be really useful for people. It's a lot of fun for me to talk about. It's the most sort of raw. Business is very procedural. I do enjoy talking about that, but there's something about relationships, man, that is really rad. But I think my fantasy show would be something where it's a bit more timely, it's a bit more wild card, it's the guest comes in, but they would have to know what to expect. And this is also part of what throws the show off, is just making sure that we've got enough of these in the can that people really understand what the show is. And we shot a pilot episode of this, and it was a dog. It was terrible. And so we're like, okay, that clearly wasn't the format, but something where I can ask questions that are going to be off topic for that guest. So that it's
more Tom,
keeping them out of the loop.
you asking questions at people.
Which is the other problem. So how do I inject myself? So, and
well,
by
not
the way,
in those, but you don't just want to be Larry King. I think you are Larry King, to be honest. Like, I think you are the next generation of Larry King.
Can I be Charlie Rose?
Sure, but he had his whole like.
Well, forget all that. I'm talking on camera.
Okay,
great
great,
point. Because that soundbite just turned terrible for me.
Great, the new Charlie Rose here.
Interview style.
Right.
Yeah, I always thought he was great at pulling
Okay,
things
but if
off.
you take Oprah and Charlie and Larry and maybe a handful of other people, like that's the old generation. I see you, but it's not even your best skill set. I don't think interviewing is actually your best skill set.
Mentor me. So what does the show look like functionally? Like in terms of the layout? Is it an interview style show? Is it sort of a hybrid with like the way that I do my AMAs, where I am literally just talking?
So I think the problem with the AMA is the same problem Gary had with his Ask Gary Vee show. It's just too all over the place. You don't know what you're going to expect. Like the questions are all, it's marketing, and then it's mindset, and then it's raising capital, and then it's really all over the place. Where at least if you're doing it with a guest, there's some kind of structure. Like, I like this person, you're diving deeper into their world. The other series you had, I never enjoyed the quotes one, the yelling one. Yeah. But that's fine. Like that's you. It's fine. I love you for how inquisitive you are and your strategies and your ideas. I don't watch you to get motivated.
Well, that's interesting. So in that sounds like a conundrum to me. So if what you like about me is my inquisitiveness, how do I talk without getting in the way of my inquisitiveness?
I think you marry them. So I think the things that you think about that make you so inquisitive, and you've learned all this stuff, is why I asked you about allergies. Like, you're my spirit animal for this stuff. It's like Tom's done all the work to figure it out, and he's going to share it, and I get to learn and pick your brain from all the work that you've done, and it saves me the time to have to do it. Just like what I do with my top 10s. Like, I watch all of this stuff, and it saves my audience the time to have to go watch 4 hours of Elon Musk to get a 20-minute video. I think that's your strength. Somebody asked me, Gary Vee or Tom Bilyeu, who do you like better? It's like, I would pick Gary for YouTube and Tom for Instagram.
Interesting.
I love your Instagram.
Thank you, man.
The part that I love, and I love your YouTube too, but there's no Tom on your YouTube anymore. It's only your guests, which is great. And you ask my favorite questions of all time, but it's not even your greatest skill set. What I love about you, like how Tom Bilyeu has impacted Evan Carmichael's life the most, is your willingness to be humble and share your past story and what you're currently going through. To not be just pushing the home and the cars and all of that stuff that most people are pushing on Instagram. So when you go and you show your picture and look at my big ears, right? Or this was the car that, you know, I used to drive around in the past, and showing that's what you came from, but also the newer stuff of when you're setting up your comic convention and like you're there with the sign and you're standing on the stool or whatever you're standing on and saying like, I'm still here doing the work, even though I've made all this money, I'm still off. I love the humbleness. It's something that inspires me as a human.
Oh, man. Thank you.
But that's nowhere on your YouTube channel. The only Tom is the great questions and then the rants, the yelling stuff, which is fine. It's just not my style. It's okay, right?
Dude, I worship at the feet of direct communication, so it's amazing.
I don't know how you bring that in, but I think your humility and your willingness to still do all the dirty work and willingness to still work insanely hard yourself is one of the greatest lessons that you can give to this generation of entrepreneurs. And so it doesn't exist anywhere on your YouTube channel, but it's pretty prevalent on your Instagram.
That's such a powerful insight, man. I'm really, really grateful for that. And here's, just speaking extemporaneously, here's what I have tried to do on my Instagram page. So yes, definitely like the old stories, this is where I came from, because that, like, when I really think about what's the impact I want to have on the world, it's to show people that it does not matter where you are today. It only matters who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And it makes me sad for other people that they think that I have some natural talent and that they then let themselves off the hook because of that. Because let me tell you, when I was laying in bed 4 hours a day, every day in the morning, I didn't feel talented. I'll just tell you that. Like, I felt like a loser. Social media didn't exist. There was no way for me to reach out to people and connect with these thought leaders. You could get Tony Robbins tapes and books and stuff, and that's what I did. But it's like, man, that's a pretty far cry from where things are today. And so I felt so hopeless and so lost and just unsure of how I was going to make anything in my life. And so for people to be like, oh, well, easy for you to say you have XYZ talents. Like, really, truly, I do not. I had zero instincts as an entrepreneur coming into it. I was a buffoon, fell on my face, embarrassed myself. I mean, just stupid beyond all imagining. But that's part of it for Instagram. The other part is I don't want to be in the world of platitudes. I want to be in the world of like, okay, I have to give you something pretty complex fast because I get the nature of Instagram, but I try to give as much real, no bullshit. Like a lot of times the team will ask me for something and be like, write something on this. And I'm like, but that's not the truth. Like the truth is he had this weird, messy thing over here. But I'm so grateful for them pushing me to try to like make this simple thing. And it's like, why isn't that platitude true? Okay, it's because of this thing over here. And so it's interesting. Sadly, I couldn't have put it together as concrete as that whole experiment thing that I'm trying to do over here on Instagram is missing from YouTube, because I'm always working via a proxy to get other people to say it, because I feel like it is there in some ways coming out in the interviews. So that's a very helpful mental construct. Thank you.
It's not coming out in the interviews.
No, man, I appreciate that.
It's the impact that you want to have wherever you are. It's not just Instagram is this one strategy and YouTube is a totally different vibe. If that's the impact you want to have and showing that side, then it's now just how do we make that into a long form video,
right,
telling the story. I don't know that I have the answer of how do you turn that into a 10-minute video, because that's what YouTube wants for the algorithm. But if it's you retracing your steps or you showing a picture of you and you write like pages on Instagram, right? Like you pour your heart. There's a lot of time you spend on the captions. You could tell. It's not just some throwaway, hey guys, this was me, okay, hustle,
right,
go, right? So how do you turn that then into a video with sound effects and show pictures of you and
Yeah, maybe it's that easy.
just that side I'd love to see. I think you coaching somebody would be amazing.
Well, now, if my wife is eavesdropping in on this, she has a whole show idea. Her and the showrunner for Impact Theory have this idea of me. So we did a show a long time ago called Driver Dream Roulette. And at the time, I was commuting like 40 minutes each way, and I would always do it in Ubers. And I just found that if you start asking them questions, most of them have some sort of side hustle. And so we would start talking, and I'd ask questions, and then if I could be useful, I would, say, hey, here's what I've learned. And sometimes it got really interesting. So I started recording it on my iPhone. And ultimately, it was a terrible use of time because for every 5 times I tried to do it, only 1 was good. And so then once it was like a show and I was filming it, there were times where I would just have to drive around in an Uber trying to get a good one. So I'm like, this is terrible. But they want to partner with, Lyft or Uber or somebody like that. And so that we're getting people that have been sort of vetted, and then I would essentially coach them.
I don't think you need the gimmick. I think you're that good.
So how do you find, because now it comes down to casting. You have to get real people that are really going to be interesting and get them through the system.
One, you're already doing your events and you're doing your endless AMAs or Q&As until whatever in the morning. Who was the most interesting person?
Right.
You're there with somebody and you say, these 3 people, I want to do 20 minutes each on the next day. Everybody's going to say yes because they love you, they're your fans. And then you film 3 episodes of 20 minutes each and one of them makes it in.
It's a pretty reasonable solution, Evan, if
right?
I'm honest.
or you have people come here, right? Like apply, send in your video of what you want to learn from Tom. And then you're already doing your other stuff here anyway. You just have to show up for an hour. You go through 20 minutes at a time and you coach them and you help them. And one of the 3 will be good. But I don't mind the car thing, it's great. But I don't think you need the gimmick.
Right.
I think you're good enough. I would love to watch that. Just you sitting here.
Right.
Change the color or something.
We did it from a business perspective because I always thought that when we started this, I did not think I was going to be the mindset guy. I thought I was going to be the business guy.
Okay.
And so we had a show called Startup Theory, and I was advising people on their businesses, but it was too business focused. And so it's it got so specific to there was one guy who was doing something like sports recruiting or something like that. And so it got so intense about sports recruiting that even though it was great advice, if I do say so myself, it was if you weren't building that business, it wasn't mindset. It was real business tactics. So yeah, doing that show, but on a mindset focus more without letting it become just about business.
Whatever their business problem is actually a mindset problem.
It's not always true. And I do, if we're going to do a business show, it's I want it to be real. I don't want it to be bullshit. I want to,
Of course.
And so there you have to get, and sometimes it's going to be hey, that's a limiting belief, whatever. We have to get rid of that.
But when is it not? When is it not that it's just legit a business issue and not, because with the right mindset, you figure anything out.
Sort of. So yes, that's true. But the show becomes about and now figure it out. If you've already got the mindset component, otherwise, that show would largely be the same over and over and over and over and over because it would be all right, you have a mindset problem, let's fix your mindset. If you're going to do a business show, I think you want to actually get into the business. And maybe I'm completely delusional. I can't see past that right now. But if the setup is that this is about helping somebody with their mindset, and either they're struggling at work or they're struggling in their home life, if we were to reduce the questions that I get on AMA, which is my favorite show to do, by the way, that would be incredible. I got lost in thought because the thing that I think would be our greatest piece of content is the endless Q&As where it's live. And I'm on stage, there's nowhere to hide. I've got a mic and a line of people that want problem solved. That's rad. Because that's hard. Can you really solve this person's problem in real time with an audience? There's no room for error. And I think that's me at my best.
I think so too. I think pulling the things that you think are rad is how you're going to win. Whether it's the Dame Dash weed question that you just can't let go and that was a rad 15 minutes extra, or the endless Q&A. These are things that nobody does endless Q&A. You're a weird duck. People don't stick around till forever to answer everybody's question. So it's like you go all in on it. I think that's it. That's still the humility side that I love. That here's this guy who may have been paid money to come here, but then he's going to spend not just flying it out, but he's going to spend as long as it takes to make sure everybody got a great experience with their question answered. It's showing, like that is your humility showing through, and your willingness to work at it. I love it. I think the real problem with most business questions is you can get a text question on an AMA, and I love your AMA. I love your AMAs more than I love your interviews, because it's Tom. Now, they may not have performed as well because they're all over the place.
Right.
But I love, even though you try to like, okay, today we're talking about this, but still you get questions all over the place. The problem with it is, one, you don't get to see the reaction of the other person and how much you've changed their life, right? And you getting the feedback off of, I just helped that person. When you catch it, you're going to push harder on it, and it's going to become amazing versus just a text question on screen and you're plowing through the next one. And two, the major problem is not the first question; it's the 4 questions deep. The question they come in with is not the problem they actually have. Right. And you'd be really, because you pull on the string, you'd be great at being able to pull that out. So that's why I think having you with somebody for 20 minutes, you'll rock their world. And it'd be a huge insight for people to watch. Now, to start, figuring out the format may be a little difficult. They probably wouldn't even do as well as your regular videos because you're training people to watch Tom the interviewer, not Tom the thought leader. Yep. Which pisses me off because I love Tom the thought leader.
Thank you, man.
Right? So when we're looking for content, it's actually harder now because you're not doing the AMAs. You have to go to other people's channels to find Tom Bilyeu
only
content.
on the podcast now,
Yeah, well, I don't do podcasts. I want to do a Tom Bilyeu mashup. We got to go to other people's channels now.
Yeah. It's a great point.
But doing more of the things that you think are rad is the answer instead of just thinking about the audience. The things that I care about, all these questions that I'm asking you, I care deeply about. And people who like me, who have exposure to your world too, they're going to find it interesting because I'm pulling on the thread that I want to pull on. Right? Where somebody else has a different audience, they'll care about different things. The things that you think are rad are the things that will blow up. So I love the car thing, but I just don't think you need to gimmick because you're that good.
Thank you.
Tom, man, thank you for all the time. Really appreciate the energy, the vibe, all the work that you do.
Thank you for your constant help and not only encouragement, but showing us ways that we could be doing things better. I'm sure you have a sense of how rare that is, but like even before we met face to face, you were like trying to help us. You even did a video one time on us, just like, here's everything that's wrong with Tom Bilyeu's channel. Okay. I was like, this is amazing. Like I was freaking out. I grabbed everybody on the team. I'm like, you have to watch this video. This is so crazy. And the funny thing is, I remember I commented in your thread, like, dude, I cannot thank you enough for this. And then somebody else was like, oh, whoa, it's so crazy. Look how like humble he's being. And I thought, a man who is experiencing this took the time to do an audit of my channel. Anybody that doesn't fall over themselves to be grateful for that is missing such a huge opportunity. So that's just you. You've always been like that, whether it's facing the camera or a DM or even literally when you came here, almost the first sentence out of your mouth was, I have some strategies you guys should try. It's like, dude, that's huge, man. I really, really can't thank you enough.
We need to figure out our communication because I don't use a cell phone and you don't use email.
Yeah, that's tricky. Well, here's the really good news. Now I don't use a cell phone either.
Okay.
So I have turned off every single notification in my life.
So for everybody watching, they want to dive more into your world. What's the next best spot?
At Tom Bilyeu across socials. The places I'm most active are Instagram and YouTube. YouTube, like if you're trying to do something to show me how much I've impacted you, follow me on YouTube. That would be amazing. Growing that is the future of this company. Cool. If you want to actually be interactive with me, then it's going to be Instagram.
I love it. Tom Bilyeu,
awesome.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you,
man.